And welcome to another episode of No Such Thing as the News, coming to you from up the creek in Greenwich, London. My name is Dan Schreiber, and I'm sitting here with Anna Jasinski, Andrew Hunter-Murray, and James Harkin. Now, last week's debut show attracted a certain amount of comment from people saying it looked cheap. There's a very technical reason for that. We have no money. Literally none. Many of you on social media, in fact, have pointed it out, like this person, for instance, who said, let me just quickly check it. It looks like a hostage video. Each week we'll be talking about the most interesting things we found from the last 7 days' news. We're not going to bombard you with baffling statistics, and we won't try and predict the outcome of the presidential election, but we might tell you, for example, that according to a recent study, Donald Trump's favorite word is I, and his fourth favorite word is Trump. Yeah. Okay, so let's begin. And in no particular order, here we go. Starting with you, Anna Jasinski.
So my fact this week is that on his trip to Vietnam this week, Obama took with him his own personal blood bank, a fake Cadillac, and an exact replica of that fake Cadillac. The Cadillac is his presidential car, and it's always referred to as a Cadillac, but there was an article in Auto Week which was saying it's not really a Cadillac because it's entirely designed by the Secret Service. And the reason is that presidential cars used to be bought from Cadillac, and then they'd sort of revamp them with all the security stuff that they needed. So the president's car obviously has lots of kind of bulletproof and bomb-proof stuff and wacky James Bond-style gadgets. And they ended up being so ridiculously heavy and cumbersome that the Cadillacs they bought would immediately break down constantly. And so it just wasn't workable.
I love that they call it the Beast. That's the name of it. When they take it anywhere, Obama's like, let's get the Beast. And he gets it. And it is a beast. You look at it, and it's a phenomenal thing. The car, as a result of being so heavy, it can't go above 65 miles an hour. So if you're trying to chase the president, you might even be able to do it on foot. Like, it's...
Well, the other thing is... Well, the other thing is it only gets about 5 miles a gallon. So if you're chasing after it, you can just wait for it to run out of petrol.
But then you can't do anything, because the thing about the Beast is that it's bomb-proof, it's bulletproof, it can detect chemical and biological attacks. There's quite a lot of security information about it that has to be concealed, but various things have been leaked and reported on. It has a cabin that can be used as a panic room, so it means it can completely shut out the outside world, nothing can penetrate, but Obama has a phone next to him, which is a direct line to the White House, so he can always call up Joe Biden if you want to.
Any of us can turn a room into a panic room. You know, you just go into a room and freak out.
That's true.
You missed the premise of that film.
Did you...
So this is another thing about the Beast. Special loops replace door handles, which allow Secret Service agents to hold on when running alongside the car.
No!
I cannot think of a situation in which that is useful. Why is there a fake one? Sorry.
Right, so yeah, this is the thing. The Beast actually isn't that one car. The Beast refers to 12 cars. And everywhere Obama goes, he takes 2 with him, and he travels in one, and the other one comes along to act as a decoy, which I actually would ask for more than that if I were him. That's like saying, you know, if someone attacks you, there's only a 50-50 chance they're going to get it right. Can you bring them all?
He does this with his helicopters as well. He has a special helicopter called Marine One, but there are 2 or 3 of them. And then at the very last moment, the right one lands. He says, oh, the president's in this one. Yeah. It's like a 3-cup trick.
I think that...
President instead of a tiny red ball. That's it, more exciting.
Various sources say that it only has one window that opens, and that is the driver's window that only opens 2.75 inches. And that is for the sake of paying tolls. Very sceptical about whether or not Obama's leaning over to pay tolls as he's driving through.
Wow. So let's get to Obama. He went to Vietnam. It was a mammoth operation to get him there. It was about 800 entourage that took him there. It cost so much.
They estimated that there were at least 50 planes required to fly him there.
Wow. Yeah, it's insane. It's to bring Obama to a country, it costs so much. When he went to Belgium a while ago, it ended up costing the country, for a 24-hour visit, he was there for 24 hours, it cost Belgium 10 million euro of their own money. You'd be like, let's just Skype. I don't know.
Just about Obama's security, because he came to the UK last month, obviously, and when he was here, you weren't allowed to fly a kite over London.
What?
Genuinely. The regulations, it said it was mostly aimed at drones, but they included kites in the regulations. In case, I don't know, you put a bomb on a kite or something.
Oh, well, he doesn't just hate kite flying. Like that guy in Mary Poppins, it's not one of those things.
No, it's not.
Do you know what he wasn't allowed to do when he visited London?
No.
He wasn't allowed to land his helicopters on Windsor Palace Gardens by order of Her Majesty the Queen, because she said this year when he arrived that last time he came and he landed his helicopters on her gardens, he absolutely ruined her lawns. So he said, I'm going to land 6 helicopters in Windsor Palace, because obviously that's how many I need to come to lunch with you. And she said, I know you can only have 3. Sorry, Mr. Obama. So well done, Lizzie, standing up to
We need to move on fairly shortly.
You're coming out of that patriotic round of applause for our queen.
I really like the comparison this week in news between Obama's vehicles, as we've discussed, and then Cameron's vehicular news that he had, which was that he's bought a second-hand car for his wife, which a lot of you probably saw. It cost £1,500. Yeah, it was a Nissan Micra, and his security detail, what their job is to stand behind the car while he's sitting in the driver's seat and make sure the back brake lights are working. It's a whole different world, isn't it?
OK, let's move on. It is time for fact number 2, and that is James Harkin.
OK, my fact this week is that in Google's Paris offices, Friday meetings are accompanied with cheese and wine. That's nice, isn't it? And in the London office, they have meetings in a padded cell. So this is the story this week where the French police went into Google's offices because they were literally doing a Google search looking for... And they were looking for evidence that Google was doing a lot of work in France and should be paying their taxes in France rather than paying them in Ireland, where they kind of sometimes do at the moment. And I thought there was no pictures because they didn't really show pictures of what the police were doing, but I thought, I wonder what they saw when they went in. And so I had a look at what the offices are like, and that's what they have. They also have a phone booth made out of an old Citroen car in the middle of one of their offices.
That's one of David Cameron's wife's old ones, actually.
Found this out, I really like this. Google has a postbox in Bermuda where £8 billion in profits goes every year. But the number of that postbox is 666. Not even joking, it really is. Yeah.
Whatever happened to Don't Be Evil?
I know.
And in America as well, they had a bit of an incident in which workers have blamed Google Maps after they accidentally demolished the wrong house. So they were brought in to demolish a house, and they put it into Google Maps, and they showed up at the wrong spot, and they just demolished the house. And the lady who owned the house was furious. I think she couldn't comprehend how something like that could happen.
Was she in there at the time? Is it like she was left standing with just the rubble around her? Going,
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Googling, what do you do when someone's knocking your house down? I was looking into offices around the world and any news that's happened about offices this week, and there's an amazing bit of news, which is that Dubai have opened a new office which has been completely 3D printed. Isn't that amazing? Let me show you guys a photo. This is it here. Yeah. That guy is 3D printed as well. And so, yeah, it was unveiled in Dubai, and they think now, the idea is that we're going to start 3D printing buildings now, And that's revolutionary. That's this week that's happened.
Is it the office printer that's now inside the office that the printer built?
That is true about 3D printers, that there was one which they taught to make other 3D printers, didn't they? And nobody knows how many of them there are in the world.
Wow, so it just keeps making a new 3D printer?
Well, it can do. It has the ability to. So once it's made a few of them, it can carry on.
There's a firm called NSTATN, and they have just made a map of America according to the queries that each state submits on Google the most, right? So it's not the thing they search for most, it's just the most asked question out of all the states when that question is asked. So, for example, people in Delaware searched how to get away with murder more than in any other state. Wyoming Googled, what is Wyoming? In Texas, it was, where is the internet? Georgia had, why are my nipples so sore? Best of all, Mississippi, can I get a what?
And so Google have been trying to make it so that when you ask of quite a casual conversation, it's able to respond to you in quite a casual way. And so what they've been doing is they've been feeding the AI computers at Google romance novels. Over 2,000 romance novels, so that it can then, when you're Googling something, respond to you in quite a human way, because apparently romance novels are very accurate about how we just generally are in conversation.
Really? Dan, tear my bra off.
Well, after they did that, they also got it to write poetry. Did you see that?
Did they? No.
Yeah, so what they did is they gave it the first line of a poem, and then you had to, then it kind of worked out what the rest of the poem would be. So I'll read some of those out if I can. Amazing, isn't it? So, what is it? It hurts, isn't it? Why would you do that? You can do it. I can do it. I can't do it. I can do it. Don't do it. I can do it. I couldn't do it.
Why are my nipples so sore?
We should move on, guys. You got anything more before we do?
So I was looking a bit into other tax news.
Okay.
And there was this article on the Go Simple Tax website, and it was about a tax return that a man sent in and the answers he gave to some of the questions. And regardless of your opinions, I think you've got to appreciate his sense of humour. So in response to the question, do you have anyone dependent on you? The man answered, 2.1 million illegal immigrants, 1.1 million crackheads, 2.2 million unemployable Jeremy Kyle scroungers, 900,000 criminals in over 85 prisons, plus 650 idiots in Parliament and the whole of the European Commission. So, got this sent back to him because HMRC said it was unacceptable, and he replied to their letter saying, "Who did I miss out?" An angry man.
Okay, so we're halfway through our show, and it's time to look at the stories that you've sent in via email and social media. James, let's start with you.
Yes, I got this from Jess Wilkie on Twitter today. Scientists at Syracuse University have worked out why fruit flies have such humongous sperm.
Oh.
Yeah, so
Have they told anyone?
a male sperm is 20 times longer than a fruit fly. And it turns out it's the shape and the length of the receptacle inside the female fruit fly. And longer sperms are better at kind of kicking out the smaller sperms out of the female's body. So if you stretch the sperm out, then it would be longer than the fruit fly. But
So the
actually,
receptacle's a bit kind of spiraled
Yeah,
or
it's
whatever
spiralling,
to
yeah.
fit in.
20 times longer?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No, thank you. I'm not going to go on any fruit fly dating websites.
Andy, what have you got?
This got sent in by Eivind Lillesveen, and it's that the Norwegian Consumer Council has revealed that the average Norwegian's phone apps have terms and conditions which altogether are longer than the New Testament.
Whoa.
Yeah, they had a readathon of the average Norwegian's terms and conditions on their phone app. It took over 30 hours to read out Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
All right, and Anna?
I got this tweet from @RT Goodman, and this comes from the Manchester Evening News, and it is that undercover police raided a warehouse in Cheetham Hill looking for £40,000 worth of fraudulently obtained sodas, and found £70,000 worth of fraudulently obtained sofas instead.
Okay, it is time for our third fact of the show, and that is my fact. My fact this week is that Thomas Beckett's elbow is currently on tour. So this is the 800-year-old monk, Thomas Beckett. He's returning to the UK in order to do a tour. He's going to be showcased around many different churches, and he's going to be blessed by the Archbishop of Canterbury. I'll give you a quick visual here. This is the elbow.
It's a fragment of elbow about this big. It's really, really small.
Yeah, it's tiny.
Yeah.
I feel like the surrounding bit of it is they know it's not very impressive.
Put some kind of the gold rays. Yeah.
He's going to get to one of the churches, Westminster, I believe, where he's going to... We do have bits of Thomas Beckett here as well.
You put them back together?
Yeah, I think that's the idea.
Like a jigsaw?
Yeah, exactly.
Great.
So, in theory, he's actually on a reunion tour.
You'd be a bit gutted if you thought you were getting tickets for Elbow, and it turned out to be Thomas.
Yeah, that's true. It's so weird though with the Beckett elbow. They keep saying in all the news articles that you read, it just includes probably Thomas Beckett's elbow. We don't actually know if it literally is his elbow, but we're all just happy to accept that it might be.
Yeah. That's because, so I think they were very clever when Thomas Beckett died. There were a lot of businessmen around at the time who thought ahead to sort of make sure that they could maximise this relic potential. So there is this eyewitness account from a guy called Edward Grimm, who was there at the time, who said, brace yourselves, the crown of his head was separated from his head in such a way that the blood, white with brain, and the brain no less red from blood, dyed the floor of the cathedral. And then people spent the subsequent days, didn't they, flocking to the church to try and mop up bits of his blood on cloths, so because knowing that that would immediately be extremely valuable as relics.
That's exactly right. And what they would do is they'd take bits of the blood and put it in massive vats of water, and then they would take a little bit of that water, and that would be able to cure you from all your ills. So he's like the original homeopathic medicine.
It is amazing. You can go online, and in the way that you can look at a big list of bands that are coming to the UK, there's honestly just relics of dead saints who are touring all over. Currently, you can go see the Relics of the Passion. That's on tour at the moment. They've got some good gigs coming up.
And you team up and have support acts and things like that.
Yeah.
Well, Thomas More from Henry VIII's time and Bishop John Fisher from the same time are going on tour together. Yeah, they are in June this year, so it's just been announced it's going to be in the US, and they're touring around their own
US tour, they're doing well. Talking about relics, so I started looking into what's going on in the world of archaeology and history, and I was really excited to read this. This week, archaeologists have discovered that Stonehenge wasn't so hard to build after all. That's a new conclusion. And this happened a couple of days ago. This week, they did a test by just having rope and people and just pulling them along. And they did it, and they found that it was incredibly easy. They were just like, oh my God, this was actually the easiest thing to put up. All these years of us thinking that this is an impossible task, and it's not. I really like, by the way, if you look at a list of people who've excavated Stonehenge, back in 1979 and 1980, it was excavated by a guy called Mr. Pitts, and in 1950, Mr. Stone.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good.
I just remembered when you were talking about Stonehenge that UNESCO has recently said that I think this week they said that Stonehenge might be in trouble due to climate change. They had a load of sites around the world which might be a problem with climate change, and one of them Stonehenge. And the reason is the warmer winters and wetter summers means that there'll be more burrowing animals, and they might be able to burrow underneath, and they might kind of fall over.
Really? It feels, of all the things to panic a lot about, RE climate change, that is actually still quite low down on my list of anxieties.
Because it's so easy to just build another one.
Exactly.
We need to move on soon.
Oh, I had a story about sort of other religious news that is happening this week.
Okay.
So, there's World Youth Day, which is this Catholic gathering. Happens every 3 years, and the next one happens in July. It's going to be in Krakow, in Poland, and people attending from Westminster have been given a phrase book, and it's a Polish phrase book containing the phrases, I love you, Then, if it's, maybe it's going well, will you marry me? Very exciting. And then it also has, unfortunately, I have a calling to the religious life.
OK, it is time for our final fact of the show, and that is Andrew Hunter Murray.
My fact is that the world's largest solar plant has just been set on fire by itself. Not a great week for the sun. It's called Ivanpah, and it's in the American desert, Mojave Desert, and it is unbelievably cool. It looks so good. I'll show you a picture of it. This is what it looks like.
Wow.
It's amazing. So normally there are two ways of doing solar, basically. You've got your photovoltaic cells, which are the things that you see on people's roofs. And there's this method, which is concentrated solar. And basically, this is 173,000 sets of mirrors, all of which have a motor, and they can angle, right? And they all focus the sun's rays on this massive tower. And at the top of the tower is a boiler full of water, which heats up to something like 1,000 degrees. And then that drives steam turbines, and that makes electricity. Unfortunately, this week, a few of the mirrors went skew-if, and they set the tower on fire. So, yeah. But I'd never heard of this thing before. It's this huge thing in the desert.
Yeah, amazing. And the thing is with these mirrors is they can be quite dangerous, right?
Yes.
Is it true that they're setting birds on fire?
It is true.
Yes.
It is true. So estimates range, I think it's about 28,000 birds a year, they think.
Oh, my God.
I know, and they call them streamers because they look like little shooting stars. It's not nice. It's very bad. Yeah. And there is another facility planned which is under the flight path of the Golden Eagle, so they are concerned that they're going to have just set all birds on fire. OK.
It actually makes me suspect that solar power is masterminded by cats.
Well, if that's your theory. OK, so that's 28,000 birds, right? Which obviously is a large number of birds. But here's another thing. There was a study in 2014 which said that every year the number of birds which die from hitting windows in America is 988 million.
What?
Yeah. That was the top estimate. Even the minimum estimate was 365 million, or a million every day of the week.
I've read this, and I call bullshit. How did you see that?
They did though on the flip side. So obviously, I think they weren't counting so much on that happening with the birds. Maybe they were, I'm not sure. But they did actually stop the size of it and brought it in a bit because they were encroaching on the habitat of the desert tortoise. And they thought we don't want to ruin the habitat, so they actually made it a bit smaller than it was originally meant to be.
Oh, one thing I know about desert tortoises is if you pick them up, they can wee themselves to death.
Is that a useful defence mechanism?
They just get frightened and they kind of expel the water. And the thing is, if you live in the desert, you need as much water as you can get. So if you're in Nevada or wherever it is, don't pick up the tortoises.
Just on the environment, I have to say my favourite news story from this week is that Leonardo DiCaprio has got into trouble because he hired a private jet to fly from Cannes to New York, and then he came back the next day. So he flew 8,000 miles in total to pick up an environmental award that was given. And people have pointed it out to him.
You know what he should have done it in? He should have done it in Solar Impulse 2. Have you guys heard of this? It's a solar-powered plane. It's unbelievably cool. And it has to be ultra, ultra light. It's got massive wings. The pilots are Bertrand Piccard, Captain Piccard, incredible, whose grandfather was Jean Piccard, who is believed to be the inspiration for Captain Piccard in Star Trek, so amazing.
Yeah. Can I quickly interrupt? Yeah. They are the most extraordinary family because Auguste Piccard, who is the grandfather, was the first to go to the highest point of the stratosphere. Yeah. Then Jacques Piccard was the person who went down to the bottom of the ocean in the Mariana Trench, and Bertrand Piccard was the first person to go around the world completely. So the Piccards have gone up, down, and around first time before anyone else in the world.
What a bunch of fucking show-offs. There's another Piccard every Christmas goes home and they're like, what have you done, Jeff Piccard? And he's like, look, I have a very nice job and a very nice family. And they're like, yeah, well, we went to the top of the world.
Can I tell you one thing about Solar Impulse? It has to be ultra light. So they didn't even take razors because apparently the extra weight would have, been too much. So they were trying to save weight wherever they could. It was so light, it just has a cockpit which you can sit in, and the cockpit has to have a toilet built into the pilot's seat. There's no room for an extra toilet on the plane. So if you're flying it and you want to go to the loo, you're already there.
I was just wondering, Andy, did you have a photo of this aeroplane? Because I have one, so I can show the photo, actually. So that is what it looks like.
All right, Jeff Beckett.
There you go. So that just shows the massive wingspan. So they have a wingspan which is about the same as a 747, but it's 170 times lighter, and that's obviously they need the massive wings because they're solar panels. Yeah, wow. That's good.
I was reading about news where the sun has been a bit disruptive in the week in India at the moment. The sun is beating down so hard that the streets are literally melting. I have a photo here.
What? You are kidding.
It's like a dead zebra.
It's like the opposite of a dead zone.
Yeah, so it's just melting, and people are literally getting stuck and have to get out of their shoes and being rescued, and yeah.
So the idea of a fire accidentally being created by reflective surfaces sounds like it would be a 1 in a million chance, but apparently really common. Last month there was a set of curtains that were set on fire in Wiltshire, and the fireman who went to put the fire out said, it was caused by the reflection from a reflective item, a mirror, we sometimes call it. And yeah, it's a common thing.
I remember reading 5 or 10 years ago that there was a fortune teller whose house was set on fire because her crystal ball set the house on fire.
No way.
But she probably saw it coming.
Okay, that's it. That's all of our facts. Just time to share with you 4 stories that we didn't have time to cover. James?
Okay, from allafrica.com. Nigeria has declared a tomato state of emergency due to a parasite called Tuta absoluta. I love that so much.
Andy?
This is from BBC News. It's that Cornwall Council has ordered a taxi firm to repaint its signs because of the offensive arrangement of its initial letters. The firm is called the Port Isaac Shuttle Service.
Anna?
This was from BBC News. This is that an Essex woman has been given a 12-month suspended sentence for taking boxes of chocolate from supermarkets, removing the chocolates from their wrappers, replacing them with rubber balls, marbles and conkers, and then putting them back on the shelves. The court heard that her motives were unclear.
And here's my final fact. This is from The Guardian. Khalees, singer of My Milkshake Brings All the Boys to the Yard, hasn't ever made a milkshake. And in a separate interview in The Independent, MC Hammer has revealed that he doesn't actually like hammers. Yep, he finds them a scary proposition. Over to Jane Hill in the studio.
A man in Greenwich in London has denied that he is called Bernard. The man, who wears glasses, has a strange accent and doesn't appear to own a razor, goes by another name, but we don't yet know what that is.
Well, that's it. That's all from Anna, Andy, James and me, Dan Schreiber. We will see you again next week. Goodbye.
Charlotte Church explores a different side to singing in Arts Night on BBC Two. Next.